Hi, Rick here from Marathon Models, Yuneec dealer from the UK and RC specialist for over 40 years. In this video I'm going to be covering Yuneec's new Typhoon H hexacopter. But before we get started, I am going to spare you the unboxing video, and I have unboxed it all for you. So I'm just going to quickly go through what's in the box. Of course, you get your Typhoon H hexacopter here. You get your ground station controller, which is a conventional controller, but it's got the tablet already built in, opposed to where DJI, where you supply your own tablet. In addition to that, you also get things like, you get the charger, you get a mains adapter for the charger. It'll also come with a 12 volt input as well, so you can actually charge it from your car cigar lighter socket as well. Some of the earlier pre-order versions, it also comes with the Wizard, which is like a small handheld controller which you can use for the follow me mode and also guiding it around the sky in team mode. You get a little welcome pack which has got lots of little bulletin cards and quick start guides in it. There is also a sunscreen which clips on over the controller. I'll show you how to fit that on later. It comes with a full set of flying props, and you get an additional 4 props as well. So you've got sort of 2 of each spare, just in case you're that unlucky. And of course it comes with neck strap and a few additional cables. Now, one thing I'm just going to point out, although we don't do unboxing videos here, when you do unbox it, just watch out in the lid, there's an additional box there, and that'll have things like SD card in there and a few other cables. Okay, so first things first, we need to get the battery charged up. So the first thing you actually have to do is you need to get the battery out of the craft, which is a simple pull clip. So you just lift that up, a little bit of pressure, pull out, and there it comes out. Now, one thing I'll just point out here, just flip that around, is you'll notice the battery is an unusual shape. So there is a certain way that it goes into the charger. So if you look into the charger, you'll notice the similar shape. So first things first is you need to plug that into the charger. Now it's going to go in with a sort of funny clip, and just make sure that's firmly pushed down. Now you obviously got your power adapter plugged into the mains, and then that adapter plugged into the small port on the side of the charger. Now we're going to get some beeping there. Now you've got a small legend down at the front of the charger here, so it's going to tell you. So just now, actually, I think we've got a solid green light. So this battery is actually fully charged. But the legend along the front here will tell you. So for example, if you've got green blinking, it's ready to charge. If you've got red blinking, it's charging. If you've got red and green blinking, what it's doing is it's calibrating the individual cells inside the battery, because there's in fact 4 individual cells in there, and it's basically just leveling them up. And solid green, which is what we've got there, is it's showing that the battery is actually charged. And also lastly, you've got a blue blinking and solid light, and it means that there's a battery error. Now in addition to that, you need to charge the controller. So what we do is you've got your USB lead. This is actually a standard USB lead, so you could in fact charge the controller from any other kind of USB charger, like a sort of like iPhone charger, etc. So that simply just plugs into the side of the charger, which you've got the wee USB socket there. Obviously getting that the right way around. Oh, there we go. And then that in turn will just plug into the socket on the bottom of the charger. And then away you go. Now the controller, actually when it starts charging, the controller will actually power on for like about 30 seconds and then power down, so don't worry about it powering on while the off switch is actually in the off position. Now the battery does take a while to charge. It takes, I think it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours to charge a battery. The controller will take a wee bit longer. What you can actually do while it's charging, if you double tap the screen, I don't know if you can see that, but it actually comes up with a battery logo showing you how much charge. So in the case of this, it's actually already charged. Now if you actually have normal conventional chargers, LiPo chargers, and you want to charge the controller battery, you can. The battery will actually come out, sits in the back here. It's a conventional LiPo battery with a normal connector on it. So if you had like a conventional LiPo charger, you could actually take this out and charge it via a traditional multi-charger, and actually probably charge it a lot quicker if you're in a hurry. Additionally, if you're going out onto jobs that you think you might be there for a while, you could do one of 2 things. You could either take yourself a USB power pack, alternatively buy an extra battery for the controller, and you could have a couple charged up. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to calibrate the compass on the craft. So first thing we need to do is we need to get the battery into the model. So as I said before, this is keyed. Also hint is the shape of the battery and the shape of the back of the craft. So that can just clip in there. Now make sure it is fully clipped in, because in fact if you only push it in, we'll pull it out again, if you only push it in part of the way and it's not fully clipped in place, it will actually turn the craft on, and you could end up with a scenario where it's flying, the battery just moves a little bit further out, complete power loss, and the craft will just fall out of the sky. So make sure it's clipped in fully. The other thing we need to do before we turn it on is there's a gimbal lock on the front of the craft, which just keeps the gimbal in place. That needs to be off when you power it up, because the gimbal is actually powered, and if you leave the gimbal lock on, it's going to cause that all sorts of problems. Other thing we need to do is just flip the legs out. Now these just come out like that, and you hear them click into place like that and like that. And now we're ready to power the craft on and get the compass calibrated. So first thing we need to do is turn the craft on. Simple switch on the front there, and then on the craft itself it's just on the front here, but what you need to do is you need to push it and hold it until you hear the tones to fully power it up. There we go, and you see all the lights coming on. Now it'll take a few moments for the controller to fully power on and connect to the craft. Okay, so once we've got everything powered up and connected, you need to go onto your tablet and select the GPS calibration. It'll give you a few choices, but the one we want is compass calibration. That's it now in compass calibration. The rear light on the back will be flashing between green and red, and these outside lights will now be flashing, which means we've got to rotate the craft in that forward direction, and we do each axis or across the motors as we go round. So we'll go round 1, 2, and then it will change on to these ones, so we move that like that. Go round twice onto the next one, round twice, and keep doing that until we will get a start-up tone from the flight controller. Oop. There we go, kind of went a little bit too quick there. There we go. And then you hear that restart. That is now the flight controller basically rebooting itself, and the calibration is all done. Now, if you get a solid light on the rear, that means the calibration has failed, and what you need to do is just power off the craft, switch it back on, and go back through it. Now, I'm doing it inside, which is not a good idea. You should do it in a wide open space, and there should be nothing electrical nearby within, say, 11 feet. They even recommend that the ground station is also nowhere near. So once you get it activated, it's worth just walking away with the craft and putting it a wee while away, just so nothing interferes with it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a sort of quick overview of the app itself. I'm not going to go into too much detail in each individual thing. I will just give you the basics that will allow you to get flying, and then I can come back and do the individual features in more details on different videos. So working round the tablet, first of all up here we have the volts. This is the volts of the craft. As you can imagine, you've got the lights coming down there as the power runs down. Below that we've got GPS. Now it says acquiring, but that's simply because we're actually indoors. Normally that will go to green. Then below it will say satellites. It means it's locked into 5 satellites, which is not quite enough to fly. Normally when you're outdoors you'll get 20 satellites, because this uses a twin satellite system. It uses GLONASS as well, which is a lot more efficient. Then below that you'll have your position. Again, we don't have enough satellites to give position there. We've got altitude, the actual speed the craft is flying, and the distance from the controller. Here you've got all your different camera settings. Again, I'll come into more detail on that. If you're not unsure of anything, automatic is always a good place to start. Then coming across the top here, we've got the time that it is, the controller, which also has GPS in it. It's locked into 4 satellites. It means the Wi-Fi is working. And then lastly here at the end, you've got the amount of power that's in the controller. Below here, ready, which means it's actually ready to fly. Below, now this is the obstacle avoidance, which you can switch off and on. So just now that says disabled, and then flicking down now, it says it's not available. That's only because we're not basically outdoors at the moment. We haven't got GPS. So we can flick that up and down. We've got the calibration. We were into that earlier. Down here now it says not available. What this is for your special camera tasks. So things like you've got cable cam. Cancel that out. You've got cable cam, journey mode, point of interest, and orbit, and automatic takeoff. Again, I'll come back into those ones in detail later on. What is quite good is you do get built-in instructions, so it'll explain there how things work on each task, and then you can enter and go into the actual feature, and all of them have that, so that's quite a good feature on Yuneec's behalf. But obviously at the moment we don't actually have that available because we are still not quite got enough satellites. So we can get rid of that. Oh, tap on that, get rid of that. Here you've obviously got camera settings, so you can go into and just it'll change it from video to stills. There we go. Now you've got camera settings, so this is going to be all your sort of main settings. So photo mode, so either GPS or DNG, so you can tip on there and you can go from JPEG to DNG or RAW as it's called. Image style, so you've got enhanced images, etc. Camera resets, video switch, etc. So you've got that, and then of course, sorry, if I go back to video, probably should have done that first. And then click on settings. You're going to have all your video settings there, so you can set things like all the different resolutions, audio switch, image, the type of image, again, if you want to have it enhanced or natural. So you've got, or natural, they call it gorgeous, but I presume that's vivid, etc. there. Camera reset, etc. Now working our way along the bottom, this is a little bit more involving. So first thing we have model select. Now it's just saying that it's going to disconnect the craft. What this is for is so you can actually use this controller on several craft. However, if you are going to be making any changes, what it's worth doing is it's worth actually making a duplicate of your craft. The way you do that, actually, I've got 3 duplicates just for safety, so if I muck one up I can flick onto the other one. But if you just press and hold it, it'll allow you to copy it and make another one, which is a very good idea. So we just back up key, so it all comes back on. Then we've got channel settings, click on there. Now this is the bit, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't muck about with until you really know what you're doing, but you can literally change every parameter and setting of the craft at all. So back to what I said about making a duplicate craft before you muck about with any of this sort of stuff here. I may go into this in another video with detail, but it's quite heavy stuff. Can I go back again? And then system settings. Click on there. Now this is all the things that you'll do for like binding your aircraft, etc. But you've got things like settings now. To activate things like cable cam, etc. When you get the craft, it will not be in advanced mode, it will be in standard mode, and that will not be available, so you don't accidentally activate it. So if you do want to use all your cable cam, journey mode, etc., you need to come in here and select advanced mode. So we'll go back from that. We've got hardware monitor. What this is if you see I move the sticks, you will see things, absolutely everything, as you can see. So if you're doing any customized setups, etc., you can come in here and actually see what they'll be doing if you're mixing different channels between each other. So again, it's an advanced feature, so make sure you know what you're doing. Mode select, what this is in what configuration that the controls are. So for example, do you want your throttle on the left side or the right side, etc. Now generally most of like UK, the world, we all fly mode 2, but some parts of Europe fly mode 1, and so on and so on. Camera select, because the Typhoon H will be able to take different craft, in here this is where all the other ones will appear. So you've got Seagull 3, Seagull 3 Pro, which is what you have already. And then of course about the controller, this is the place that you will come in and to do various updates. So for example, updates on the craft, updates on the controller, all be done from here. Again, I will go into detail, but in other videos. I don't want this to sort of string out too long. Another one just to point out as well, you do have an iPad function. This is a normal Android tablet in here, so you've got all your normal Android stuff. So if you want to download apps from the Play Store and load them up here, you can. For example, there's lots of media players, so you could take the SD card from the craft stick it in the bottom of the controller. There's a socket in the bottom, and then basically play it through the movie studio, etc., editing programs and all that sorts of things here. So it is a tablet inside there as well, which is quite cool. And then we go back to home. It will take you back to where you started. Okay, so now we'll cover the switches. So the first ones we actually come to, these ones here, these are actually all to do with the gimbal. Now, at the back of the controller, there's a small slide switch that will go up and down, and that is what tilts the camera up and down. You'll see that moving in the background there. Now, the first switch is there's two tilt modes. So one tilt mode, which we have it in just now, what that means is whichever position you push the slider to, the gimbal will follow. So if I just pull it down a little bit, the gimbal goes down a little bit and then stops in that position. The next one you have, which if you flick all the way down, the way that works is when the slider is in the center position, the gimbal will not be moving. If you move it up slightly, or I should go down because it's already up. If I go down slightly, the gimbal starts moving down, and it will keep moving down until it gets to the bottom. So it's kind of like a little speed controller. The more you move the switch, the faster it will go. So if I move it all the way to the top, it will go up quite quickly. When you put it back to the center, it will stop. I personally tend to prefer it on that mode so that I can just click it down slightly, it will move down slightly and stop there. Now the next one is the pan mode switch. So the one that it's in just now, what will happen when the craft is flying around, the gimbal will actually follow the direction of the craft is, and this is the most likely mode that you're ever going to fly in. Now flicking it down one, it stays in the same mode, but it will allow you to, I'll be honest with you, I'm not overly sure I see the point of it, but you can't actually tilt and pan the gimbal by using that little knob. The only thing to remember, if you're flying and you're kind of using the screen mainly, you got to remember you could end up with the gimbal pointed one way and the craft pointing another, so watch out for that one. And then the bottom one I call is global mode or head locking mode, and what will happen is regardless of what way the craft flies, the gimbal will remain pointing in the same direction. So it's like it's fixing like a point in the horizon, and then the craft could be turning left and right, and that will stay. Also, the pan mode will also work in that mode as well, so you can turn that left to right. This could be maybe handy if you were doing like a sort of panoramic, so you could just set it slowly going around and then just kind of sort of snap the pictures as you go. Put that back to center. Now, as we're on the side of the controller, we've got one of the main flying sticks. Now what this one is, this one's in charge of throttle or height control, so that'll make the craft go higher and then hold its position, or height, and then descend holding its position. Now don't worry about pulling it all the way down, it will not cut the motors, it will basically descend as fast as it can. Now one of the unique features of the Typhoon is when it gets down to certain heights, it will slow your descent. So at first when you pull it all the way down and you're quite high up, it will descend quite quickly, but when it gets to about, I think it's about 10 meters, it will slow down and then slow down further at 5 meters, even with the stick already fully pulled back. And then in the bottom here, this one here, that is your camera shutter. So on the other side you've got your video one. Now these little cursors here are actually meant to be trimmers, but we don't actually use that on multi-rotors, because remember this radio could be used for other things, so they are essentially trimmers that you would use like normally what you would have on a model aircraft. Okay, moving across to the other side, we have some additional switches. So first one across, we have an aux button. At the moment it doesn't do anything. Again, it's a multifunction radio, so maybe at some point that will be brought in for something else. Now this is the obstacle avoidance switch, which is what turns it off and on. Now one thing I will point out is you'll notice it's a 3-position switch. However, the top position does something, that's off, and all the way down is on. So don't be thinking, I got caught out with this at first, I just went and flicked it down once, thinking my crash avoidance was on, and it actually wasn't, and I just about ran into a wind turbine. So just remember, it's all the way up or all the way down to bring the crash avoidance on. Now just as a little footnote, when you have the crash avoidance on, it limits the speed down into turtle mode, so it goes quite slowly. So when it's off, you're going to be speedy around, and then all the way down it will actually reduce the speed. So that's the first one. And then come over here, we've got flight mode. What that is for is there are 3 flight modes. You have smart mode, which is all the way up. What smart mode means is when it's on, it creates a little no-fly zone around you first. So what you do is you put the aircraft out 8 meters in front of you, and then it knows you're standing 8 meters behind it, and then it will create an 8-meter no-fly zone around you so you can't fly into yourself. And also when you're flying away from yourself, it won't fly further than 300 meters. Now the main thing part of smart mode is that relative to your position, pushing the stick away, which is normally forward on the craft, and that's reverse on the craft, and then that's banking left, banking right, it takes away the direction of the craft. So regardless of what way the model is pointing, even if the model is pointing at you, that will still fly the craft away. So if you can imagine you're in the center of a circle, and that no matter where the craft is, it will always make it fly away from you. It's good for an initial getting started, but I have to say, try and get away from smart mode as soon as you can. So it's great for like the first flight, but other than that, it's best to actually learn how to fly a craft properly. Next one down, you've got the angle mode, as they call it. And now everything's relative. So with the craft pointing away from you, like as if you were sitting in it, that is flying away from you, that's flying back towards you, that is banking the craft left, sorry, banking the craft right, banking the craft left, and that is the mode that you really want to fly on all the time. Always remember, because it's GPS enabled, if you get into any difficulty at all, just let go of the controls. The craft will stop exactly where it is. A lot of times when I get craft into repair, it's just simply because people got a bit disorientated. They put left in when the craft was pointing towards them, and it made them fly into a tree or something. And then the last one's quite a simple one, that is home mode. So flicking that on, it will cause the craft to rise up, fly home, hover for a bit waiting for you to flick it off. If you don't flick it off, it will come down, land, and then turn the motors off. Now on the back side of the controller here, there's another slider switch which goes up and down. This is your turtle rabbit mode, so it's basically like a speed control. So if I quick check all the way up, it is on rabbit mode, so that'll be quite slow, and then pull it all the way back down, and that'll be on the go faster mode. But just flicking back to what I said earlier, even if you're on go faster mode and you put the crash avoidance on, it will slow the craft down dramatically. But it's really good for, if it's quite windy, you'll probably have it in rabbit mode, so it gives you more authority over the wind conditions. But if you were maybe doing a nice sort of video piece and it had to be all quite nice and progressive, then certainly put it into rabbit mode. And then moving further down here, of course, we've got another trimmer which is not used, and then of course you've got your video mode. That is what turns the starts and stops the video. Push that, turn the video on, push it again, and it will stop the video. And of course, now you can't take pictures while you're videoing, sadly. So if you are videoing and you want to take a picture, you stop the video and then quickly flick onto the button on the other side to take your picture. And then of course down at the very bottom, it's kind of obvious, that is your on-off button. Okay, just to catch a couple of things on the bottom of the controller itself. That's the USB charging socket that I showed you earlier. Micro SD socket, basically as if you would have a micro SD in the side of a tablet. So if you want to watch videos you've taken, you can plug them into there. And then of course on the far side here, you have a headphone socket, because again, you could play music on the tablet, although it wouldn't probably be the most sensible thing to do, to have headphones on while you're flying, but that is what that is. Okay, so moving across the top of the controller, we've got our rabbit and turtle mode, so that's your speed control. Then we've got our landing gear switch, so lowering and raising the landing gear. First of your two antennas. Carrying handle here as well. We've got a couple of fans on the back here for keeping the tablet cool. Moving across, you've got HDMI out, so you can pump a live feed out of HDMI onto either a set of goggles or onto, say, a large screen if you were doing a live event, etc. The second of the two antennas, of course, the start-stop switch. That is basically push it, hold it to start the motors, and the same to stop them. Don't push it mid-air, as it may actually cut the motors in mid-air as well. And then lastly, we've got the gimbal tilt, so that's for tilting the camera gimbal up and down. Now, as I showed you earlier, the Typhoon H has got folding arms, so it can pack down into smaller spaces. But this is how you fold them up. It's quite simple folding them up. You just simply lift them up, and you'll see the little catch there will hear the wee click, and that's it locked into place. Now, to fold the arms down, there is a little press button there. What I tend to do is put a little bit of pressure on the bottom of the arm just so it disengages the lock easier, push the button, and then the arm will simply fold back down again. Now, it's important you obviously fit your props on before you fly. Now, it's important to note there's actually two different types of props. If you look closely at the blades, you'll see one slopes one way, one slopes the other, because you've got 6 motors, 3 go one way and 3 go the other. Now, they're color coded, so you'll see that this prop top has a white top, and then you notice this prop has the silver circle. So this prop, if you try and put it on, it'll just not go down, it will not engage properly. But with the silver one, you just simply push it on. What I do is I just put it lightly on and turn the motor with my fingers, and you'll see it drop down, and then just turn it once more and then it will click. Now, to take the prop off, this is like a push button. So you just, again, I tend to grip the motor, so push the button, turn the motor with my fingers, and that's it off. So on like that, clip. Now, always remember, when you do put your props on, just not only give them a little bit of a pull, but give the motor a little bit of a twist, because you haven't got it on properly, that could just ping off in flight. That's very important. Now, the Typhoon H is designed to fly on 5 props or 5 motors, but always best not to put it to the task, and always make sure your props are on correctly. So this video should have covered you all the basics in getting your Typhoon H into the sky safely and as quickly as possible. I'll go into more detailed things on the individual features, because the Typhoon H is actually quite packed full of some advanced flight features, which I'll go into more detail. However, I can't finish this video without a little bit of safety. Always remember to fly your multi-rotor in a safe and careful manner. Always consider people around you and remember the rules and regulations. You should not fly higher than 120 meters, and shouldn't fly further than 500 meters, and you should not be within 50 meters of people and buildings not under your control. If you're unsure of any of these sort of things, you can check out the CAA website, where all the rules and regulations are there. If you're in other countries, then obviously you'll need to check out the rules and regs, because they can change from country to country. However, I tend to find the CAA rules are pretty good for wherever you fly. So I'm Rick from Marinville Models, a unique dealer from the UK and RC specialist for over 40 years. I hope you enjoyed my video, but I do need your support to keep producing them. They do take a lot of time, and we don't get an awful lot back from the videos. A little bit of Google revenue, but it's not a great deal, so we need your support. If you are in the UK looking to buy your Typhoon H, then please buy it from us or any of the other smaller independent dealers. We do need your business, and it's what keeps us going. And you'll always find small independent dealers will always be more likely to go that little extra mile to keep you and your craft flying when you need to. Thank you very much.